knows this, but my middle name is actually Lawrence. And I never planned to live in Lawrenceburg, or planned to be here. Actually, I never planned to be Catholic, to tell you the truth. But here I am in Lawrenceburg, a deacon, Lawrence, celebrating the feast of our patron, and my patron, St. Lawrence. Now, St. Lawrence was one of those saints that we don't know a whole lot about, but whose martyrdom made a deep and lasting impression on the early church. What we do know is that he was a Roman deacon under Pope St. Sixtus II, probably during the reign of and persecution of the Roman Emperor Valerian. And he was martyred around the year 258. It is said that he was in charge of the material goods of the church and the distribution of alms to the poor. After Valerian had murdered the priests and deacons and then killed the Pope, he demanded that Lawrence bring to him all the treasures of the church because he believed the church had great material wealth. Lawrence agreed and said that he would need a few days to gather all the treasures. But Lawrence had already begun giving away these material goods, even selling the sacred vessels and giving the money to the poor. Lawrence then gathered all the aged, the poor, the crippled, lepers, widows, all the useless people in the empire. And when he met Valerian, Valerian demanded the treasures of the church. And Lawrence responded, "These are the treasures of the church." Well, needless to say, Valerian did not take that very well. And he told Lawrence that he was going to die by inches. So he had a large gridiron prepared and had Lawrence slowly roasted to death. Now there's no doubt that Lawrence had faith, and courage, but interestingly enough, as I contemplated and meditated on this feast day, one idea would not leave me. It was the idea of fear and doubt. You see, it kept coming back to me time and time again that St. Lawrence was not only faithful and brave, but was also weak and scared, just like you and me. So why did he go forth knowing that he would die, knowing that his plan would cause him a horrible and agonizing death? It wasn't his absence of fear that made him move, it was his judgment that his faith in God was greater than his fear. The courage of St. Lawrence came in that moment of recognizing the will of God, of recognizing his call to justice and truth. Lawrence stood on the edge of yes and no, and he made his decision. Now, the beautiful thing about the saints that we don't know a whole lot about is that we can take what we know and use a little artistic license in our imagination and think of what may have been. So I'd like to paint a picture for you of what came to my mind when I was meditating on Lawrence. It's a picture that reminded me of this beautiful deacon chair with a gridiron on it. It was beautifully made by a parishioner, Mike Deatherage, and generously donated by Mike and Mary Jo Timmerman. So this is my thinking. Practically every depiction of St. Lawrence shows him as a very young man. Even our banner shows that. He almost looks as young as Father Chris. You're told that he was one of the 7 deacons of the church in Rome. But I wonder, could it be, was he a junior deacon? A new deacon? I like that idea, because I'm a new deacon. So I'm going to stick with that. It is said that Lawrence was in charge of distributing the material goods of the church to the poor. But was it the more experienced deacons and priests that gave him his assignments? Deacon Lawrence, go visit the widow Jones. She needs some company. And I know she has some very good Irish whiskey, and she will offer you a taste. But only a taste, Deacon. Deacon Lawrence, you need to bring this food to the orphans that hang out there on the corner. Make sure each one of them gets their equal share. But watch out. Keep your wallet in your sandals. They're very tricky. Don't let them take advantage of it. That could be a possibility. We know that he was a new deacon at one time or another. And I wonder how nervous Deacon Lawrence was when he first began his ministry. I wonder how many doubts he had in his ability to serve God and in God's willingness to strengthen him. Another thought comes to mind as painting this picture. I wonder about Valerian. Why did Valerian let Lawrence live? And I think maybe Valerian saw in Deacon Lawrence an opportunity. We know all the Christians knew about the persecution of the church, the death of the Pope and the priests and the deacons. The church leadership was wiped out. But if Valerian could take this young, inexperienced deacon and make him voluntarily turn over the goods of the church and submit to his will, surely all the Christians would lose heart. And I wonder, when Lawrence presented the crowd of undesirables to Valerian, I wonder why Valerian didn't kill them all, along with Lawrence. It was in his right. There may have been a little uproar in the community, but he could have done it. In my painting, this is what I see. I see a vast crowd of poor, lepers, sickly, orphans, old and young widows, prostitutes and thieves. And standing right beside them, I see faithful Christians ready to die with and for them. I think Valerian was overwhelmed and confused by Lawrence by the faith of the crowd. And really the only thing he could do was make Lawrence suffer as greatly as he could. But even that didn't work. For Deacon Lawrence sealed Valerian's defeat with his last words. As legend has it, as he was burnt to death, he said, "I'm well done on this side. Turn me over." So what does this mean for us, for you and me? You know, it's a long way from Rome in 258 to Lawrenceburg, Kentucky in the year 2012. So what is our patron saying to us? What is he asking you and me? I guess the first thing I would ask, can you hear me? I'm away from the Good. So what would St. Lawrence ask of us? I think the first thing he would ask was, do you have the courage to trust in God? Do you have the courage to believe in the promises that Christ made for us, and to believe in the wisdom, the divine wisdom of the church he formed here on earth? Do you have the courage to risk ridicule, harassment, being called haters and homophobes, and all sorts of terrible words when you stand up for the dignity of marriage for a man and a woman? Do you have the courage to risk embarrassment by living your faith openly? By saying a prayer of thanksgiving in a restaurant? To talk to your friends and neighbors about your faith, to share your faith, the great faith, the gift that you can give. By our baptisms, we are all called to ministry and to service. We're not just called to come to Mass on Sundays and holy days. We're called to much more. So I'm asking, do you have the courage to ignore your doubts and to put away those excuses that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, my faith is not strong enough to teach my faith to our children here at St. Lawrence, to help run the religious education program here at St. Lawrence, to become involved in the parish council to fill those seats, to help with the formation committee, the bereavement committee. So many ministries here at St. Lawrence, and so few people do them. Always the same old faces. Wonderful faces. We love those faces. But we'd love to see more faces. It's a beautiful thing to serve God. It's a beautiful thing to serve your parish. Don't be scared. Have courage like St. Lawrence. Take that step and be involved. Jesus calls us today and tells us, whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there also will my servant be. Pray for courage, brothers and sisters, because our Lord